Fatima, if you can make Dr. Hilal Hussein as a presenter, because he joined just now. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Hilal.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu. How are you doing?
Yes,
Can
assalamu
you hear
alaikum.
me, Doctor? Welcome, Salam. How are you doing, Dr. Hilal?
Alhamdulillah, I'm trying just to let me. Hello?
Yep.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Now I can hear you.
Welcome,
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak for all of you.
Thank you. So, Dr. Hilal, you will not have a presentation, right? Just a
No,
speech.
No, it's only a speech. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Inshallah.
So I have, for the panel discussion, I have prepared, as mentioned in my email, 2 questions for each speaker. So we will go in rounds, like in 2 rounds. For each round, I will be given 5 minutes to each speaker to answer the question. And then once the first round is conducted, we'll move to the second round. And at the end, we will give 10 minutes for the questions from the audience.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
And Rashid, you're speaking about the report itself, aren't you?
Yeah, just highlighting the key sections and what is included without really going into details. So it will be brief.
Yeah, and I might mention just a couple of things about the report as I lead into the response to the first question.
Okay. So just another couple of minutes while accepting the participants.
Mm-hmm.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Aslina, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good. How about you?
Yeah, good. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, yeah.
So we'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Distinguished guests, speakers, and participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you. On behalf of the General Council for Islamic Banks and Financial Institutions, I have the pleasure of welcoming all of you today to this webinar on the digital momentum, impact on Islamic banks, and guidelines for adaptability. Ladies and gentlemen, the global banking sector is rapidly evolving through digital transformation, bringing both opportunities and challenges for Islamic financial institutions as they adopt new technologies to enhance efficiency and customer experience. Islamic banks must balance innovation with Sharia compliance, strong governance, and effective risk management. In this context, CIBAFI's new guide on digital momentum impact on Islamic banks and guidelines for adaptability provides an in-depth analysis of these transformations, and it explores also emerging fintech trends such as decentralized finance and the integration of AI, big data, and cloud computing, offering practical and strategic recommendations for Islamic banks on their digital journey. In today's webinar, we will discuss the key elements of this guide with the insights from industry experts on building technologically advanced, resilient Islamic financial institutions while preserving the integrity of Sharia-based principles. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we start, we would like to make a couple of announcements. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please do not hesitate to write them in the chat section or the Q&A section, and we will try our best to answer these questions as much as we can. The webinar will be recorded and posted on CIBAFI social media platform in the coming days, so please follow us on our social media platforms for updates. We would also appreciate your feedback on the organization of the webinar by filling out the evaluation form for the webinar, which will be sent to all the participants. Now, without further ado, I have the pleasure to call upon Dr. Abdel-Ilah Belatiq, Secretary General of CIBAFI, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Dr. Belatiq, the cloud is yours.
Thank you, Rashid. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning or good evening to all of you, wherever you are. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this important webinar on the digital momentum impact on Islamic banks and guidelines for adaptability. The global financial landscape is undergoing rapid digital transformation, presenting both significant opportunities and complex challenges for Islamic financial institutions. The pace of technological change has accelerated dramatically in recent years. Artificial intelligence, big data analytics, cloud computing, and distributed ledger technologies are no longer theoretical concepts, but practical tools reshaping how financial services are delivered. This transformation has been further intensified by recent global events that have pushed digital adoption to unprecedented levels. For Islamic banks, this digital revolution presents a unique set of considerations. How do we harness these powerful technologies while ensuring complete Sharia compliance? How can we balance innovation with effective governance and risk management? What strategies will enable Islamic financial institutions to thrive in this increasingly digital ecosystem? To address these critical questions, CIBAFI has developed a comprehensive guide through our Innovation and Technology Working Group. This publication, which we are proud to launch, examines digital transformation through the lens of Islamic finance and provides practical recommendations for Islamic banks navigating this complex landscape. Today, during this session, our distinguished panelists will discuss emerging digital trends in the Islamic finance industry and their strategic implementation approaches. We will explore how Islamic banks can build technologically advanced, resilient institutions while maintaining the integrity of Sharia-based principles. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the members of our Innovation and Technology Working Group for their dedication and valuable contribution to this important work. Their diverse expertise and insights have been instrumental in developing this comprehensive resource. Warm thanks to the industry experts who are joining us today to discuss this important topic and share with us their insights. And last but not least, this project could not have been executed without the generous support of our long-term partner and CIBAFI founder, the Islamic Development Bank. I trust that today's discussions will provide valuable insights to help your institutions navigate the digital transformation journey successfully. We look forward to your active participation and thoughtful questions. Before closing, I would like to invite all of you to join us for our annual meeting, which will be held in Medina, Saudi Arabia in mid of April. Thank you for joining us today and wish all of us a productive and enlightening session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Belatiq. Now I have the pleasure to call upon Dr. Hilal Hussein, Associate Manager in the Islamic Development Bank Institute in Saudi Arabia, to deliver his opening remarks. Dr. Hilal, the cloud is yours.
Thank you, Rashid. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد. Esteemed panelists, respected colleagues, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor to speak today about a defining moment for Islamic banking, the digital revolution. Technology is transforming finance at unprecedented pace. Customers today expect instant, seamless, and secure services. They compare banks not to other banks. They compare it to fintech startups, technical giant companies, and decentralized finance platforms. For Islamic banks, this presents both opportunities and challenges. So the key question is, how can Islamic banks embrace digital transformation while remaining Sharia compliant and ethical? First, financial exclusion. So financial exclusion is, today we have 52% of the global Muslim populations, around 935 million people lack access to financial services. To address this, the Islamic Development Bank Institute, ISDB Institute, launched one of its flagship projects, which is the Digital Postal Islamic Financial Services Initiative. By leveraging postal network, the logistic power of the postal network, we can offer Sharia-compliant digital banking to remote and underserved communities. This means mobile banking for those without access to branches, blockchain-based microfinance for small businesses, AI-driven credit scoring to improve financial inclusion. This initiative is bringing millions into the formal financial system. Second, we need to unlock the Awqaf potentials. Awqaf assets remain largely underutilized, yet they hold enormous economic value. To change this, ISDB Institute also came out with another flagship project, which is the Awqaf Free Zones Initiative. This initiative merged Awqaf with the free zone models to create new investment opportunities, supports food and energy security, and these are two major issues. And we do this by utilizing Awqaf lands for sustainable development, attracts investors and businesses while preserving Islamic principles. By transforming dormant Islamic assets into economic drivers, we can make Awqaf more impactful and sustainable. Third, by improving trade through digital counter-trade. Many OIC member countries struggle with foreign exchange limitations and high debt burdens. To solve this, ISDB Institute also came out with a third flagship project, which is OIC Smart Contract Digital System. This system uses blockchain technology to modernize barter-like trade, reduces reliance on hard currency, and minimizes debt, ensures secure, transparent, and efficient trade among OIC member countries. This innovation is a step forward in making trade more accessible and debt-free. Fourth, financial market volatility. Islamic finance must address growing instability in asset market To do this, we came out with a patent pending. Still, we are waiting for the patent, inshallah, to be granted. But also, we got a positive feedback from on the progress. So this patent is called Smart Stabilization System. We do this mainly to incorporate AI and blockchain to balance supply and demand, stabilize the financial market by reducing price shocks, and enhance liquidity management, making Islamic finance more resilient. This patent pending initiative ensures long-term financial stability and a digital economy. Now, the way forward, I think Islamic banks must act now and stay competitive. There are three key strategies to lead the digital shift. Number one, to leverage AI and blockchain for financial inclusion. So AI-powered tools like Islamic Financial AI Assistant that also the Institute initiated last year can provide financial guidance in real-world time. Blockchain can enhance security and transparency definitely in any financial transaction. Second, we have to strengthen fintech collaboration. Now ISDB I is planning to launch, inshallah, this month, a hackathon that's built around AI-powered solution for Islamic finance. And this hackathon, inshallah, we're planning also to have announcing the winners of the hackathon during the ISDB upcoming annual meeting, inshallah, in March in Algeria. Third, modernizing regulatory and Sharia compliant framework. Islamic banks need clear adaptive regulations for AI, open banking, and digital assets. Cross-border collaboration will harmonize Islamic banking regulations and foster innovation. Now, as a call to action, ladies and gentlemen, Islamic finance must evolve. We have no other option. Digital transformation is no longer optional. It's becoming essential. So we must act now. Bank must invest in digital solutions. Regulators must adapt compliance framework. Fintech must co-create ethical Islamic financial tools. The choices we make today will shape the next decade of Islamic banking. Let's work together to build a more inclusive, resilient, and digitally empowered Islamic financial system. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hilal, for your keynote speech. And now we will move to, before starting the panel discussion with our distinguished experts, we will move to a brief presentation on the key elements of the guide Digital Momentum Impact on Islamic Banks and Guidelines for Adaptability. And for that, just allow me to share my screen. Yeah, so CIBAFI has developed this guide to support the Islamic banks in their digital transformation journey. As you all know, technological advancements like blockchain, AI, cloud computing, and machine learning have transformed the financial services sector by introducing new products, services, and some disruptive business models. These innovations have led to the rise of fintech startups, digital banks, cryptocurrencies, open banking, and other innovations that disrupted the traditional financial institutions, including Islamic banks. So to adopt these technologies and to adapt to the changes associated to these technologies, there is a need for Islamic banks to stay competitive in terms of technologies that are adapted. However, this digital shift is associated also with risks, particularly regarding the governance, Sharia compliance, and some particular risks that are associated with digitalization. So the guide that we've developed offers insights into some key trends and practical use cases, as well as guidelines for adopting these new technologies in Islamic banks, while highlighting these key challenges such as governance, risk management, and compliance issues. It serves also as a reference for practitioners to navigate the evolving digital landscape while ensuring Sharia adherence. So the guide starts by an overview of the evolution of digital banking, starting with ATMs in the 1967 to digital-only banks. And in light of this evolution, the guide explores key milestones and shifts in customer behavior and the need for banks to stay ahead. We also look at some key aspects of digital transformation. As you know, digital banking is driven by personalization, new business models, and convenience. So the guide looks at how Islamic banks can leverage digital solutions while ensuring compliance, by implementing digital strategies that requires investments in infrastructure, cost efficiency, and the focus on customer experience. So the guide in this section tries to explore how Islamic banks can balance these elements while ensuring also Sharia compliance. We also explore the concept of fintech. Fintech is reshaping financial services through innovation. So we are examining models, collaborations, and the role of Islamic banks in integrating these technologies, and also navigating collaborations and competitions in digital finance, and the strategies that Islamic banks can adopt to leverage financial technologies, either in-house development or partnerships with third parties. We also explore the topic of decentralized finance and crypto finance, looking at the different digital assets, their definition, such as CBDCs, stablecoins, and how these are influencing the financial sector, as well as exploring their implications, risks, and opportunities for Islamic banking. We are also exploring emerging technologies that are used in the banking sector, such as big data, AI, cloud computing, and EPS, and their transformative role in the financial services. And we discuss how these innovations can impact the various operations of Islamic banks, starting or moving from embedded finance to AI in risk management. The guide also highlights these emerging trends that are shaping the future of the banking, and discusses how they can be aligned with the Islamic finance principles. We also, as you know, there are opportunities associated with digitalization, but there are also risks. So because digitalization introduces new risks and that are specific to this sector, such as cybersecurity and some regulatory challenges, in this guide we examine how Islamic banks can ensure compliance and ethical use of the various technologies. And to conclude, the guide also provides some strategies and recommendations for Islamic banks to ensure they balance digital innovation with compliance. Some of the approaches to digital finance, to competitive positioning, and product development. To discuss these points and more with our experts, we'll start this panel discussion first by introducing the experts that are with us today in this webinar, starting with Ms. Lina Idris, Senior Director and Head of Strategy and ESG Office at Payment Network in Malaysia. She's an expert in digital payment structures within Islamic finance, and she will guide us through the role of digital payment infrastructure in enhancing financial inclusion and operational efficiency for Islamic banks. We have also with us Dr. Okan Asar, Chief Digital Banking and Payment Systems Officer at Kuwait Turk. He will be talking about the perspectives on the critical building blocks needed to execute a successful digital transformation in Islamic banks. And we have also Mr. Andrew Cunningham, Chair of the Board of Directors at ARC Ratings, and also he's a consultant of CIBAFI. Who will be focusing on corporate governance in the context of digitalization, and will provide also some strategic recommendations from the CIBAFI's Digital Momentum Guide. And last but not least, Mr. Harun Shahban, Director at EY, Bahrain. He will discuss risk management in digital transformation, fintech adoption, and regulatory aspects, providing key insights on managing these risks effectively. So we'll start the first round of questions with Ms. Azlina. As you know, digital payment infrastructure is becoming increasingly important in today's financial ecosystem. So my first question is, how can digital payment infrastructure enhance financial inclusion and operational efficiency for Islamic banks? The cloud is yours, Mrs. Lina.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Happy to be here. Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak to all of us. Actually, I'm speaking from Kuala Lumpur, and we're kind of like less than 1 hour away from iftar. So sorry if I sound a little bit exhausted, but then I'll try to be as energetic as possible. The key thing about digital payments is that that is actually the base layer to enable any Islamic financial institutions to interact with one another, right? Payment is actually the very backbone of any financial institutions. Now, in enabling financial inclusion, one of the key things that needs to happen is that it has to provide, as the name suggests, a backbone that is number one, accessible and affordable, and that means at lower cost. So by saying that, what I mean is this: for any country to be able to thrive and survive, and for Islamic banks to operate efficiently, having a well-functioning digital payments infrastructure is actually quite key. Yeah, and in that sense, for countries like Malaysia, we have one national payments, retail payments network infrastructure, and we provide it equally to conventional and Islamic banks. And in doing so, the Islamic banks and conventional banks would need to have the same set of minimum standards and minimum requirements in order for them to be able to participate efficiently in the system. Now, the second part of it is that in making the payment system accessible and amenable, we need to be looking at it not from the point of view of the provider, but from the point of view of the end user. So for the underserved, as what was shared by our earlier speakers around making sure that those who are unserved are actually in the financial system, we need to be able to make it free for them. And in order to do that, there are certain tiering that needs to happen, and that will necessitate making available a financial infrastructure that is, free as a utility for these groups, right? And when we make it free for these groups and we digitalize them, therein comes the benefit of bringing in all the other Islamic social finance elements like zakat, sadaqah, and wakaf. And this is where in Malaysia, we have been quite successful in doing this by integrating it with QR codes. Now, what's happened is that, by making it affordable, accessible, and to a certain extent free for certain types of transactions, the use of QR for zakat and sadaqah has grown above and beyond. And now, if you go to any mosque, instead of using cash for donation, QR is actually the preferred mode, simply because Malaysia belongs to a region that has high mobile penetration rate, right? And on that score, when you look at the number of people with bank accounts, there's only 70% of adults. But when it comes to mobile penetration, it's at 93.8%, which means there are more people with mobile phones than there are with bank accounts. And therefore, when it comes to the making available of digital payments infrastructure, it is actually quite critical to actually go mobile first. Now, maybe I'll stop there, and we'll go deeper into what are the other building blocks. But for now, I would say access, affordability, and cost is actually one key element. And the second element is that making infrastructure, especially digital payments infrastructure, as a utility.
Thank you, Mrs. Lina. Thanks for mentioning the building blocks for this transformation, which leads me to my next question to Dr. Okan. In your experience, what are the critical success factors for implementing a digital transformation strategy in an Islamic bank, knowing that you represent an Islamic bank?
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here, and Ramadan Mubarak for everyone. I am now from Turkey, and there is a way to go for iftar, so I'm very comfortable. First of all, the aim of the digital transformation should be increasing the customer and the employee experience by using the digital tools. So the aim shouldn't be the digitalization. The aim should be the experience of the customers and the employees. And when we are talking about digital transformation, we should be talking about 5 field pillars. These are the people, process, product, channels, and the technology. The successful transformation should keep these pillars in consideration, and they should have some kind of points in different kind of the projects. And before you start for the digital transformation, there should be a digital maturity assessment before the journey to understand the gaps between the existing situation and the target of the institution. When you understand the gaps, then you can put the projects in your timeline, in your digital transformation roadmap. And this roadmap shouldn't be less than 2 years, but not more than 3 years, because everything is changing very rapidly. And in order to accomplish a very successful digital transformation, there should be, of course, the leadership commitment and the vision. The senior leadership must demonstrate a strong commitment to digital transformation and guiding the bank with a clear vision of integrating technology while maintaining the Sharia compliance also. And one other thing is the technology improvement. Every aspect of the digital transformation must relate to Sharia principles for an Islamic bank or for an Islamic institution. For example, adopting technologies for fintech solutions like digital payments, crowdfunding, or maybe Islamic robo-advisors must be structured to ensure no involvement in interests or any unethical investments or unethical issues. One other thing is the customer-centric innovation. You know, when we talk about the customer experience, we should be talking also on the customer-centric innovation. A key success factor in developing customer-focused digital products and services are the customer-centric innovation. This includes the mobile banking applications, digital-only processes through the channels and the platforms that provides easy access to Sharia-compliant investment opportunities. Think about, buying a house through a digital financing platform. You need to be compliant with Sharia, and also you should be on the digital to ease the customer transactions. And of course, this requires allocating substantial importance in UX design and the overall CX activities. One other thing is the data security and privacy. In an area of digitalization, cybersecurity and data privacy are very important, especially for the banks, because we are dealing with sensitive personal information. Implementing robust security measures that align with both international standards and Islamic ethical guidelines is essential. Because we are not only, thinking about the international standards, but also the Islamic guidelines. One other thing is staff training and development. It is, very crucial that the bank employees, from IT specialists to customer service agents, should understand both the technology being implemented and the use of the digital for their jobs. Lastly, this change management should be effective, which means the cultural transformation. Cultural transformation is the heart of the digital transformation. Therefore, it requires a continuous mind shift. A clear change management strategy that communicates the benefits, goals, and expected outcomes of digital initiatives helps to gain employee and customer buy-in. This is very important, very crucial here. The employees should not have any concern on their employment. And here, in this matter, human resources and the corporate communication should be in place to help the leaders to accomplish the digital transformation journey. I think briefly these points cover the entire concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akan. You've mentioned a number of points and the 4 pillars, and I think to manage setting all these pillars for successful digital transformation journey, there is a need for strong governance. And I think this leads me to the next question to Mr. Andrew regarding, in your opinion, do you see any key governance challenges specific to Islamic banks when adopting these new technologies or while going in this journey of digital transformation?
Yes, I do. Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. So with Professor Hussein Abdu, I was one of the 2 authors of this report, and it's a long report, and it's taken a long time to write, and the reason for that is partly because the digital landscape is changing so rapidly. The ground moved underneath us as we were writing, and we were constantly having to update. And the report really has 2 pillars. One of them is, what are those changes in technology which are relevant to Islamic banks? And the second pillar is, what are the strategic choices or the strategic questions that Islamic banks have to ask themselves? And that's where we come in to the governance side. And there's a lot in this report, and the report is over 100 pages long. There's a lot in this report about the choices that Islamic banks have to make in terms of assessing the digital ecosystem, for example, in which they operate, the competitive environment, their own digital capabilities. But just to focus directly on the governance question, governance starts with the board of directors. So do we expect a director to be an expert in quantum computing? And the answer is no. I mean, it would be wonderful if they are, but the answer is no. It's not realistic. But I would expect directors to be cognizant of legal and regulatory thinking on the use of third-party suppliers, for example. So as banks, one of the big questions for banks that we go into in the report is, do you build it yourself or do you buy it in? Right? So to the extent that you're using third parties, how do you manage those relationships? It's a very important issue generally in banking, very important with digitalization. So one would expect a director to be cognizant of the latest thinking on that. But going beyond that, if I was talking to a board of directors of an Islamic bank about digitalization, I'd be saying to them, do you have a strategy? What is your strategy here? So how do you think your customer profile is going to change as a result of digitalization? Are you going to have is the median age of your customer going to drop by 15 years if you get this right? What brands are you going to be using? Do you use your existing brand, or do you set up a new brand for your digital offering? And there's a lot of questions around that, because if your existing brand is not fit for purpose for digital offerings, you need to be asking yourself some questions about why that is not true. Okay, it's a complex issue. Again, we address it in the report. What legal entities, what regulated entities are you going to use to implement this strategy? And are you aware of where the regulatory perimeter is? So if you're going to team up with a taxi company so that your customers can use that taxi and pay for it through your systems, what part of that is regulated and what part of it is unregulated? Now, it's not a difficult question, but it's an important question, and the answer to that question could be changing as the regulatory perimeter changes. And the final point on strategic choices is, do you understand the financial implications of digitalization? And I'm always amazed at the lack of discussion about the financial implications. So if you convert a product, a set of products, from a situation where you're selling them, managing them largely face-to-face, largely over the phone, perhaps with some interaction on the internet, and you just digitalize the whole thing, what's the financial implication of that in terms of your cost to income ratio? Is it more profitable or is it less profitable? If you introduce smart contracts, so unattended contracts is actually a better word, unattended contracts to manage your letters of credit, what happens to the cost to income ratio of that business? As a director, you need to know that. Okay, so and then I will say, I know we're going to deal with risk in a moment with another speaker, but do you as a board of directors understand how your risk profile is going to change? And if the risks are now more deeply embedded in the digitalization of the bank than they were before, has the skill set of your risk management team, your compliance team, and your internal audit team adjusted to take account of that changed risk profile of the bank? I've mentioned third-party suppliers. I would also mention cybersecurity, as we mentioned before, but as you digitalize, you're presenting a bigger surface area of digitalization for cyber criminals to attack. So clearly cybersecurity becomes more important. Finally, I've said you don't expect a director to be an expert in quantum computing. You expect them to be aware of latest trends. Okay? So you have to have some form of briefing the board on what's happening. You may want to set up a board committee to look at digitalization, and that committee can bring in experts as required. Should you have an individual director who is an IT or digital expert, there's a broader issue of governance there with, should you have someone who's an expert on climate change? Should you have someone who's an expert on financial crime? You can end up adding experts for each individual topic. And that's not there's a reductio ad absurdum there, and you can't just keep on adding board members. But you have to find some way of the board being able to have a reasonably detailed, intelligent, strategic conversation about the trends in digitalization. There's an awful lot more that one could say, but I'd better stop there before Rashid cuts me off. So thank you, Rashid.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Thanks for mentioning all the multiple aspects and points related to perhaps the main role of governance in ensuring a successful digital transformation, which includes actually managing the risks. And this leads me to calling upon the next speaker, Mr. Harun Shahban, to highlight some of the key risks that are associated with digital transformation and how Islamic banks can effectively manage these risks particularly around cybersecurity and operational risks. The cloud is yours, Mr. Harun.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid, and thank you everyone for inviting me and being part of this panel. So when we talk about risks, so whenever we look at digitalization and the rewards that it offers, so definitely we cannot ignore the risks that are associated with digital banking. And it's very important that these are effectively managed to make sure that the rewards do not outright the risks and, from a benefit perspective. So in terms of managing the risks, the first thing to start with, I would say that having a robust risk management framework is essentially important. You need to establish a comprehensive risk management framework that aligns with the Islamic financial principles and regulatory requirements. That's very important. Regulatory requirements cannot be ignored at any point in time because that can definitely have a big impact on the financial institution. And then you have to regularly assess and update these risk management policies to address the emerging risks. Cybersecurity measures, something has been spoken about by other panelists as well. So implementing advanced cybersecurity protocols, including firewalls, encryption, intrusion detection systems, conducting regular, security audits, voluntary assessment to identify and mitigate potential risks is very essential when it comes to cybersecurity measures. At the same time, I think we cannot ignore the fact that training and awareness is an important element of risk management as well. So making sure that ongoing training to employees, cybersecurity best practices, and the importance of safeguarding sensitive information is taken care of. And fostering a culture of security awareness within the organization is very critical. And instances when you are engaging third-party risk management service providers, you need to make sure that you evaluate and monitor the cybersecurity practices of those third-party vendors as well to ensure that they meet the bank security standards. At the same time, there should be clear contractual obligations regarding data protection and incident response. Data governance privacy, something also very essential in terms of having strong data governance policies to ensure compliance with data protection regulations and Islamic principles. And given the sensitivity that arises as a result of use of data and the way digitalization and things are moving, it is very essential to make sure that data privacy is protected at all times. And you can see a lot of enhanced regulations coming out by various regulators when it comes to data protection. Investing in technology, so a continuous investment in modern technology solutions that enhances security and operational efficiencies, such as artificial intelligence, everyone spoke about it. Machine learning, threat detections are some of the important aspects to manage risks. Regulatory compliance, another important aspect when it comes to digital banking. It's very important that this should not be ignored at any point in time. So having that in place, making sure that the local and international standards are taken care of when it comes to the regulatory compliance. And at the same time, continuous monitoring and improvement. You continuously assess and examine the processes and make sure that there's a continuous improvement process that is embedded and making sure that the learning happens as the journey towards digitalization is being followed by the banks. And make sure that all the stakeholders are taken together. This is important. Stakeholders within the organization, outside the organization, they are all part of this journey. There should be effective, transparent communications between them. They should be aware of the challenges and the risks and should be on board with the management in terms of making sure that they invest the right amount of time, the right technology, the right people to make sure that the risks are managed effectively. So in short, I think I have covered a lot of different things, but in summary, having a robust risk management framework, cybersecurity measures, employee training and awareness, data governance and protection, incident response plan, technology-related investment, and regulatory compliance is something very essential when it comes to risk, managing risk associated with digital transformation, including cybersecurity and operational risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron, for this comprehensive response. And I would like to thank all the speakers for your insightful responses to this first round of questions. Let's now move on to the second round of questions, and I will start again with Mrs. Lina. As you mentioned the number of benefits related to digital payment infrastructure and its use in Islamic banking. But is there any strategic considerations that Islamic financial institutions should address when integrating these digital payments?
So I would answer that question from the lens of the customer. I think I tend to support the view from Mr. Akka from Kuwait that in the sense that we need to take the customer-centric approach. Now, who are Islamic financial institutions here to serve? Primarily, it's actually the people with Muslim faith, and therefore we're looking at something like 1 in every 4 of the world population. The Islamic financial institution is actually supposed to be serving that. And you're looking at 57 countries, 49 of whom are Muslim majority. And it's actually essentially to serve this group and who has a very strong inclination towards Sharia compliance, right? So if you were to look at that from a focus lens, the other bit about it is that there's also this organization of Islamic countries where the key to getting all these strategic considerations going somewhere is actually to be looking at it from growth of trade. So in essence, how do we increase inter and intra-regional trade through Islamic financial institutions by increasing digitalization? To me, that is the fundamental question. And from that particular premise, we should be looking at it from the lens of how do you increase cross-border payment flows between and amongst the Islamic financial institutions, and to what extent can digitalization assist and increase economic trade, economic growth, and prosperity among us all. And therefore, you will be able to see things in a far, kind of like a clearer lens. Now, in increasing trade, you need to be inclusive, and therefore, in comes the concept of open finance. Open finance, as the name suggests, is actually to increase inter and intra, financial arrangements among those especially who are underserved. It is making available information that would have not been made available unless we have open banking in place, right? And in order to have open banking in place, one needs to be able to connect with each other using what you call application platform interfaces, or API. And in that sense, you need to be able to modernize our infrastructure right across the board, across all the Islamic financial institutions, in order to prepare or in order to be able to provide open finance, right? So that's the precursor. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if we were to look at it from that particular lens, then modernizing access to technology and making sure that things are, working in a way that works for the customer becomes something that is more manageable. It doesn't become so overwhelming. And from API banking, you then build a layer around how do you ensure that things can be offered less cumbersome, more seamlessly, addressing target segments that would have not been reachable. And therefore, that is where you start looking at the ability to work and harness through fintechs and making sure that, access to finance is actually done through these, niche organizations. Now, against that layer, you need to then create this safe haven where all this technology enablement needs to be wrapped with some kind of risk mitigant in the form of making sure that cyber risks are well managed. Now, in that sense, this is where quantum safe payments come into the picture. And in order to get that to happen, one needs to be also aware that, if we were to approach it from an ecosystem-wide point of view, instead of doing it on an organization by organization basis, you then have that economies of scale and scope, and you will be able to address it more comprehensively. That is what we did here in Malaysia, where we actually have a national fraud portal, national scam response center, so that we have cyber resilience, cyber security and readiness being managed on a industry-wide basis. Now, and finally, in order to ensure that there is inclusive growth and ability on the part of both the service provider and the service user, there needs to be some kind of capacity building, where you need to upscale both the directors, the management on the provider side, as well as the users and the customers and the end consumers on the consuming side. In order to do that, you need to be able to then see how we can actually foster and harness collective resources, where you can create some kind of academy under CIBAFI, for instance, to actually sit down and create the center of excellence, where you start looking at things from, for instance, number one, AI-driven social impact hub, where you use AI and you use the capability that you can harness from machine learning in order to harness financial inclusion across all OIC countries, because there are already well-established financial fintech hubs, the likes of a fintech called Go Baraka, for instance, where they use programmable money to ensure that there's no leakages for the direction of money for alms and for sadaqah, right? Using programmable money. Now, the second one about it is that, how do you then make sure that this is exportable and